Decimals are a special type of fractions with denominators that are powers of 10. 1/2 is 5 to 50%. 1/4 is 25 hundredths, 25%.
Almost every person has 10 fingers. Since we have 10 fingers, our numbering is based on multiples of 10, which is called decimal. Can you imagine how life would be different if all human beings were born with 8 fingers instead of 10? Maybe our numbering system would be based on multiples of 8. In everyday life, we use decimal numbers. The idea of decimal numbering comes to us from the ancient civilizations, and we still use the numbering based on tens from the Romans. The Roman numeral for 10 is X, and 20 is XX, or 2 times 10. You still see Roman numerals in dates on buildings, movies, and each year the Super Bowl gets the next Roman numeral. Our decimal numbering system uses Arabic numbers instead of Roman numerals, and also uses multiples of 10, so 40 means 4 times 10. But you already know that. The other interesting part of decimals is how decimals are used to represent fractions. Way back in 1616, a Scottish mathematician named John Napier suggested that decimal numbering could be used to show fractions, and he added the decimal point. Numbers to the left of the decimal point would stand for whole numbers, and the numbers on the right side would indicate the fractional part. So the number 1.5 would be 1.5 in decimal. Wait a minute. How did we get 5 for 1/2? Since we're using 10 as the base of a decimal, half of 10 is equal to 5. Similarly, the fraction 1/4 becomes 0.25, and 3/4 becomes 0.75. The picture is a little more complicated when you look at 1/3. If you divide 1 by 3 on your calculator, you get the decimal value 0.333, with 3 filling the screen. That's because 3 doesn't divide evenly into 10. Scientists and engineers use decimal numbers all the time in calculations. When you study advanced science topics in high school and college, you will learn why the precision of a decimal number is so important in calculations. For now, though, decimals are easier to use in math equations than fractions are. Think about adding 1 3/4 and 2 1/2. It's easier to add 1.75 and 2.5. In fact, think about your calculator. You never see fractions on a calculator. When you use calculator, you always use decimal numbers. Now that we've reviewed what decimals mean and a little bit about how they work, can you think of some examples of how you use decimals in your life? That should be easy. Money, money, money. There are 100 pennies in $1, and $0.50 is 50 cents, or 0.50. Every time you buy an item and make change, you are working with decimals. Have you ever noticed how many prices end in 0.98 or 0.99? That's so you think that the item costs less than it does. For example, which seems like less money, $1.99 or $2? Of course, $1.99 is less money by a penny, but when companies try to get you to buy something, That penny makes a difference because you consider what is to the left of the decimal to be more important. So you will be comparing $1 with $2, and that seems like a big difference. Decimals show up in lots of other places in daily life as well. Every gas pump shows 2 sets of decimal numbers: the amount of gas you bought as a decimal and the amount of money you owe. And your gas mileage in miles per gallon is always shown as a decimal number. Talking about cars and mileage, have your parents ever used MapQuest to get directions? All mileage in these standard directions are shown as decimals too. I hope now you can see that decimals are used all around us.
Decimals are a special type of fractions with denominators that are powers of 10. 1/2 is 5 to 50%. 1/4 is 25 hundredths, 25%. Oh man, there's so much to this song. So much to learn. Sing about. So let's get into that second verse. In measurement with more decimal place values, the more precise measurements can be. You'll discover later on that there's always a more precise measurement to see. Decimal point tells that whole numbers are to the left and decimal parts are to the right. Any decimal greater than 1 has an equivalent mixed number or fraction to